Sophia Bennett pressed her palm against the cool window of the hospice facility, watching autumn leaves scatter across the courtyard below. The morning sun painted everything golden, but she felt anything but bright. Her stomach churned with a nausea that had plagued her for weeks, and an exhaustion that no amount of sleep could cure. "You look pale, dear child," Grace Chen observed from her wheelchair. At 87, Grace had a way of seeing through people that made Sophia feel transparent. The elderly woman had been at Riverside Hospice for 3 months, and in that time, she had become more family to Sophia than her actual relatives. "I'm fine. Grace, just tired." Sophia managed to smile as she adjusted Grace's blanket. "How are you feeling today?" "Never mind me. I'm dying. That's my job." Grace's dark eyes sparkled with humor that her frail body couldn't diminish. "But you're young. You should be glowing with life, not looking like you've seen a ghost." Sophia had indeed seen something disturbing, though not a ghost. The positive pregnancy test hidden in her bag felt like a bomb waiting to explode her carefully managed life. It made no sense. She had never been intimate with anyone. The idea was medically impossible, yet the test didn't lie. 3 weeks ago, she had visited Riverside Medical Center for a routine examination. She'd been experiencing painful menstrual cycles, and the clinic's Dr. Helena Morrison had been recommended as the best gynecologist in the city. The appointment had been quick, professional, and unremarkable. Or so she had thought. "Sophia, are you listening?" Grace's voice pulled her back to the present. Sorry, I was distracted." "I can see that." "Whatever is troubling you, face it head on. That's the only way through darkness." Grace reached out with a trembling hand, and Sophia took it gently. "You're stronger than you think, my dear." If only that were true. Sophia had never felt more powerless than she did now. Standing in the hallway of the clinic later that afternoon, waiting to speak with Dr. Morrison, her hands shook as she clutched her medical file. The door opened, and Dr. Morrison emerged, her professional composure cracking for just a moment when she saw Sophia. Behind her stood an older man in an expensive suit, the clinic director, Mr. Pembroke. "Miss Bennett, please come in." Dr. Morrison's voice was strained. "We need to discuss something very serious." Sophia entered the office, her heart hammering. The room felt smaller than she remembered, the air thick with tension. "Miss Bennett," Mr. Pembroke began, his face grave, "there has been an incident. A very serious medical error involving your case." The words that followed felt like they were spoken underwater. Mix-up, wrong sample, insemination. These clinical terms swirled around her, refusing to form a coherent picture. "I don't understand," Sophia whispered. "I came here for an examination. Just an examination." Dr. Morrison's eyes glistened with unshed tears. "There was a catastrophic failure in our labeling system. You were given a fertility treatment intended for another patient. The procedure involved donor genetic material." The room tilted. Sophia gripped the edge of the desk to steady herself. "Whose genetic material?" Her voice came out hoarse. Mr. Pembroke and Dr. Morrison exchanged glances. Finally, the director spoke. "Julian Ashford." The name hung in the air like a lightning strike. Everyone knew Julian Ashford. Tech genius. Political power broker. The man whose decisions shaped industries and influenced governments. His face appeared on magazine covers and news programs. He was untouchable, unreachable, existing in a stratosphere so far above Sophia's world that they might as well live on different planets. "This is impossible," Sophia breathed. "This cannot be happening, Miss Bennett. We understand this is overwhelming," Mr. Pembroke continued. "The clinic accepts full responsibility. We're prepared to offer comprehensive support, including all medical expenses and significant financial compensation." Sophia's mind reeled. Does he know? Does Julian Ashford know about this? Not yet. "We wanted to speak with you first, but we must inform him immediately." "And the other woman? The one who was supposed to receive the treatment?" Dr. Morrison cleared her throat. "Natasha Whitmore, Mr. Ashford's fiancée. She also underwent the procedure that day. She received genetic material from a different donor. She's currently pregnant and believes the child is Mr. Ashford's." The complexity of the situation crashed over Sophia like a wave. Not only was she carrying the child of a man she'd never met, but that man was engaged to another woman who thought she was carrying his baby. I need air. Sophia stood abruptly. I need to think. Miss Bennet, please understand the sensitivity of this situation, Mr. Pembroke said urgently. Mr. Ashford is a public figure. If this becomes known, I'm not concerned about his reputation, Sophia interrupted, surprising herself with the steel in her voice. I'm concerned about what happens to me. To this baby. She left the clinic in a daze, walking through the city streets without destination. Her phone buzzed repeatedly, but she ignored it. The world had shifted on its axis, and she needed time to find her footing. By evening, she found herself at Riverside Hospice, drawn back to the only place that felt like home. Grace was sleeping, so Sophia sat quietly in the visitor's chair, watching the old woman's chest rise and fall. You came back, Grace murmured without opening her eyes. I knew you would. How did you know I'd left? I know many things, dear child. Grace's eyes opened, surprisingly clear. And I know that whatever happened today changed your life forever. Sophia felt tears threatening. I don't know what to do, Grace, and don't do anything yet. Sit with the truth. Let it settle. The right path will reveal itself. They sat in comfortable silence until Grace drifted back to sleep. Sophia was about to leave when her phone rang. Unknown number. Against her better judgment, she answered. Miss Bennet. The voice was deep, controlled, unmistakably male. This is Julian Ashford. I believe we need to talk. Sophia's breath caught. How did you get this number? The clinic provided it. I apologize for the late hour, but this matter is urgent. Can we meet tomorrow? Mr. Ashford, I don't think, please. The words stopped her. It wasn't a command, but a genuine request. I understand this is difficult for both of us, but we need to discuss what happens next. For both our sakes. Sophia closed her eyes. Grace's words echoed in her mind. Face it head on. Where? She asked. There's a private estate on the north side of the city, Evergreen Manor. Tomorrow at 2 o'clock. I'll have my driver collect you. I can find my own way. Miss Bennet, I'm not trying to control you. I'm trying to protect both of our privacy. The press doesn't need to know about this meeting. He had a point. Sophia gave him her address and ended the call. That night, she barely slept. Her mind painted scenarios, each more impossible than the last. What did Julian Ashford want from her? Money to make this disappear? A legal agreement to stay silent? Would he demand she terminate the pregnancy? The thought made her hand instinctively move to her still flat stomach. Despite the chaos, despite the impossibility of it all, she already felt connected to this tiny life growing inside her. The circumstances didn't matter. This child was hers. The next afternoon, a sleek black car arrived precisely at 1:30. The driver was professional and silent, taking her through winding roads to a secluded estate surrounded by towering evergreens. The house itself was modern yet warm, all glass and natural wood. Designed to blend with the forest around it, Julian Ashford stood on the front steps, waiting for her. Sophia's first thought was that photographs didn't capture him accurately. He was taller than she expected, with dark hair touched with silver at the temples and eyes that were startlingly blue against his tan skin. He wore casual clothes, jeans, and a sweater, but carried himself with an authority that needed no suit to establish. Miss Bennet, he said, walking forward to meet her. Thank you for coming. I'm not sure I had much choice. She kept her voice steady, despite her racing heart. Something flickered in his eyes. Respect, perhaps. You always have a choice. Please come inside. The interior was as impressive as the exterior, but what struck Sophia most was how lived in it felt. Books lined the shelves. A half-finished chess game sat on a side table. Family photos dotted the mantel. This wasn't a showpiece. This was a home. Can I offer you something? Tea, water, Julian asked. Water, please. He returned with 2 glasses, and they sat in a sun-filled room overlooking a garden. For a moment, neither spoke. I won't pretend to understand what you're feeling, Julian finally said. This situation is unprecedented for both of us. That's one way to put it, Sophia replied. His lips twitched. Almost a smile. You're not what I expected. What did you expect? Someone more intimidated. Most people are when they meet me. Should I be intimidated? No. His answer was immediate and firm. You should be angry. You should be demanding answers and compensation. You have every right to both. Sophia studied him carefully. This wasn't the cold mogul she'd imagined. There was something genuine in his directness, a weariness in his eyes that spoke of his own struggles. What do you want from me, Mr. Ashford? Julian, please. He set down his glass. I want to understand what you want, what you need. And then I want to discuss a solution that protects both of us and, most importantly, protects the child you're carrying. A solution. Sophia's voice hardened. You mean making this problem disappear? No. Julian leaned forward, his gaze intense. I mean acknowledging reality and dealing with it honestly. The afternoon light shifted as they sat in silence, each processing the enormity of what lay between them. Sophia watched Julian carefully, noting how his fingers tapped against his knee. The only sign of nervousness in his otherwise composed demeanor. Let me be direct, Julian said finally. Natasha, my fiancée, believes she's carrying my child. Our arrangement was always more strategic than romantic. A merger of families, influence, and resources. But now everything has become complicated in ways neither of us anticipated. An arrangement? Sophia repeated the word with distaste. You are going to marry someone you don't love? Love is a luxury in my world, Miss Bennett. Partnerships are built on mutual benefit, shared goals, and respect. That sounds incredibly lonely. The observation seemed to surprise him. His blue eyes studied her with new interest. Perhaps it is. But it's also practical, safe. Safe from what? Julian stood and walked to the window, his broad shoulders tense. From loss. From the kind of pain that breaks you. I lost my wife 5 years ago, Carolyn. She was 8 months pregnant with our son when her car was struck by a drunk driver. They both died instantly. The words hit Sophia like a physical blow. Beneath the powerful exterior was a man shaped by devastating grief. So sorry, she whispered. I learned then that loving people makes you vulnerable in ways that power and money cannot protect against. So I stopped. I built walls. I made arrangements instead of relationships. He turned back to face her. And now fate has given me another chance at fatherhood, in the most bizarre circumstances imaginable. Sophia's hand moved instinctively to her stomach. What are you proposing? Marriage. The word hung between them like a grenade. That can't be serious. Completely serious. Julian returned to his seat, leaning forward with intensity. Think about it logically. If this becomes public knowledge, the scandal will destroy both our lives. You'll be hounded by media, your privacy obliterated. I'll face questions about my judgment, my fitness for the political advisory roles I hold, and our child will grow up under that shadow. So you want to hide the truth? I want to control the narrative. We marry quietly, present a united front. You gain financial security, the best medical care, protection from scrutiny. I gain the ability to know my child, to be a father without the circus that would otherwise ensue. Sophia shook her head in disbelief. You're asking me to marry a stranger. I'm offering you a partnership. Like I had with Natasha, but with one crucial difference. This child is actually mine. This child is real. And what about Natasha? What happens to her? I'll tell her the truth. She deserves to know. The clinic has already informed her that there was a mix-up with the genetic material. She's deciding what to do about her pregnancy. Sophia stood abruptly, pacing the room. This is insane. People don't just marry strangers because of a medical mistake. People do far stranger things for far less important reasons. Julian's voice was calm, rational. Sophia, I know this sounds cold, but consider the alternative. You're a hospice nurse, making modest wages. How will you afford childcare? Medical bills. The life complications of single motherhood? I'll manage. People do it every day. You don't have to struggle alone. Not when I can provide everything this child needs, except love. The words came out sharp. You can provide money and security, but what about warmth? Affection? A real family? Julian's jaw tightened. I can't promise feelings I don't have, but I can promise respect, protection, and commitment to our child's well-being. Is that not worth something? Sophia stopped pacing and faced him directly. What if I say no? Then I'll still provide financial support for the child. I'll still want to be involved as a father. But everything will be infinitely more complicated. Every interaction scrutinized. Every decision requiring lawyers and negotiations. Is that what you want for our child? The question struck at the heart of her dilemma. Sophia thought of Grace's words about facing things head-on, about being stronger than she thought. I need time, she said finally. Of course. Take 3 days. Think it over. But Sophia, understand this. His blue eyes held hers with unwavering focus. This isn't about us. It's about giving this child the best possible start in life. Everything else is secondary. The car ride home felt surreal. Sophia's mind spun with possibilities, each more daunting than the last. When she arrived at her modest apartment, she found her stepmother Vivian waiting in the lobby, her expression cold. Where have you been? Your father has been trying to reach you. Had an appointment. An appointment. Vivian's eyes narrowed. You look different. Pale. Are you pregnant? The directness of the question made Sophia's stomach drop. That's none of your business. It is as if you're planning to bring shame on this family. Your father has enough problems without you adding to them. Sophia pushed past her, anger flaring. I'm not part of your family, Vivian. I haven't been since my mother died, and you convinced my father I was too much trouble. She slammed her apartment door, heart racing. The small space felt suffocating. She needed advice, perspective, someone who could help her think clearly. That evening, she returned to Riverside Hospice. Grace was awake, reading by lamplight. You came back again, Grace observed with a knowing smile. This must be serious. Out. Sophia sank into the chair beside her bed, and for the first time, told someone the entire truth. Grace listened without interruption, her wise eyes never leaving Sophia's face. Oh, so this powerful man wants to marry you, Grace summarized when Sophia finished. Not for love, but for convenience and protection. Yes. Oh. And you're considering it because you want security for your child. Partially. But also because he has a right to know his child. Despite everything, I could see the pain in him, Grace. He lost a wife and baby before. This is his second chance. Grace reached out and took Sophia's hand. Let me tell you something, dear child. I was married for 62 years to my husband. We met when I was 19, married at 20. Everyone said we were too young, that it wouldn't last. But do you know what made it last? What we grew together? We changed together. We learned love wasn't something you had at the beginning, but something you built every single day through small choices and kindnesses. Grace squeezed her hand. This Julian, he thinks love is a luxury. Maybe you're meant to teach him it's a necessity. You think I should marry him? I think you should be honest with yourself about what you want. Not for the child, not for security, but for you. Can you imagine sharing your life with this man? Can you picture waking up beside him, learning his habits, his fears, his dreams? If the answer is yes, or even maybe, then perhaps this strange beginning could lead somewhere beautiful. Sophia sat with those words long into the night. She thought about Julian's grief, his careful control, the walls he'd built around himself. She thought about her own loneliness, her yearning for family and belonging, and she thought about the tiny life growing inside her, innocent of all the complications its existence had created. 3 days later, she called Julian. I have conditions, she said without preamble. I'm listening. We don't pretend to have feelings we don't have. We're honest with each other, always. Second, I continue working at the hospice as long as I'm physically able. Third, we have separate bedrooms and my privacy is respected. And fourth, if either of us becomes genuinely unhappy, we find a way to end this without destroying each other. There was a pause. Then Julian's voice, warmer than she'd heard it before. Those are fair terms. I accept them all. Then yes, I'll marry you. The wedding took place 1 week later in a private ceremony at the courthouse, with only 2 witnesses present. Sophia wore a simple cream-colored dress that Julian had sent over, elegant without being ostentatious. When she arrived, she found Julian in a charcoal suit, looking both powerful and unexpectedly nervous. The ceremony was brief. The judge spoke the traditional words, but they felt hollow without love to give them meaning. When Julian took her hands for the vows, Sophia noticed they were slightly cold. "Sophia Bennett," he began, his voice steady, "I promise to provide for you and protect you. I promise to respect your independence and your wishes. I promise to be a father to our child, to put their needs above my own, and I promise to treat you with the dignity and consideration you deserve." The vows were practical, careful, and somehow that made them more poignant. When it was her turn, Sophia looked into his blue eyes and spoke from a place deeper than logic. "Julian Ashford, I promise to be honest with you, even when it's difficult. I promise to respect the man you are while believing in the man you could become. I promise to be a good mother to our child and to make our house a home. And I promise to give this arrangement every chance to become something real." Something flickered in Julian's eyes at those last words. Surprise? Perhaps. Or hope. When the judge pronounced them married and invited Julian to kiss his bride, there was a moment of hesitation. Then Julian cupped her face gently and pressed his lips to hers. It was meant to be perfunctory, a formality. But the contact sparked something unexpected. A warmth that traveled from Sophia's lips through her entire body. They broke apart quickly. Both shaken by the intensity of that brief connection, the judge smiled. "Congratulations, Mr. and Mrs. Ashford." Julian took Sophia to his primary residence that evening, a stunning modern home nestled in the hills overlooking the city. The architecture was breathtaking, all clean lines and floor-to-ceiling windows. "This is your home now, too," Julian said, as he gave her a tour. "Feel free to change anything you'd like." Sophia explored the beautiful spaces, noting the expensive art and designer furniture. Everything was perfect and impersonal, like a magazine spread. "It's very beautiful," she said carefully, but it doesn't feel lived in. It feels like a showroom." Julian looked around as if seeing the space through new eyes. "Carolyn decorated our previous home. After she died, I sold it. Couldn't bear to live there. When I bought this place, I hired designers. I never really thought about making it personal. May I add some personal touches? Nothing dramatic, just some warmth. It's your home now, Sophia. Do whatever you like." Over the next few days, Sophia began subtly transforming the house. She added throw blankets in rich colors, placed fresh flowers in various rooms, hung family photos she'd asked Julian to share from storage. She created reading nooks with comfortable chairs and good lighting. Slowly, the showroom became a home. Julian watched these changes with something like wonder. One evening, he found her in the kitchen attempting to cook dinner. "You don't have to cook," he said. "I have a private chef on call." "I know, but I like cooking. It relaxes me." She glanced at him. "Unless you'd prefer I didn't." "No, I just assumed you'd want to take advantage of the staff. Not good at being waited on." She stirred the sauce she was making. "Would you like to help? Or do powerful moguls not cook?" He surprised her by rolling up his sleeves. "I'll have you know I make excellent scrambled eggs." "Just eggs?" "It's a very important skill." They worked together in companionable silence, and Sophia found herself relaxing around him for the first time. Julian was surprisingly competent in the kitchen, following her instructions with focused attention. Carolyn used to say, "I treated cooking like a military operation," Julian said suddenly. "Too precise, too controlled." "I think precision is good in cooking. It shows you care about the outcome." He glanced at her with unexpected warmth. "That's a generous interpretation." They ate dinner at the large dining table, which felt absurdly formal for 2 people. Halfway through the meal, Sophia couldn't take it anymore. "Can we eat in the living room?" "This feels like a business meeting." Julian looked surprised, but nodded. They moved to the more casual space, sitting on the comfortable sofa Sophia had chosen, and the conversation flowed more easily. "Tell me about your work," Julian said. "Why hospice care?" Sophia set down her fork. "When my mother was dying, she spent her last weeks in a hospice. The nurses there were angels. They made her comfortable, treated her with dignity, helped her find peace. I wanted to give that gift to other families. It's beautiful and difficult. It is, but also rewarding. Grace, one of my patients, has become like family. She's taught me so much about living fully, even when death is near." "I'd like to meet her," Julian said quietly. Sophia looked at him in surprise. "Really? If someone is important to you, they should be important to me. That's how partnerships work, isn't it?" The thoughtfulness of the gesture touched something deep in Sophia's heart. Maybe Grace was right. Maybe this man could learn to open his heart again that night. As Sophia prepared for bed in her private suite, she heard a soft knock on her door. "Come in." Julian entered, looking uncharacteristically uncertain. He wore casual clothes, his dark hair slightly mussed. "I wanted to check on you. Make sure you had everything you needed." "I'm fine. The room is lovely." He nodded but didn't leave. Instead, he walked to the window, looking out at the city lights below. "Sophia, I know this situation is strange. I know I'm not what you dreamed of when you imagined marriage. But I want you to know that I'll do everything in my power to make this work. For you and for our child." She joined him at the window. "I believe you." He turned to face her, and in the soft lamplight, his features seemed gentler, more vulnerable. "When you said your vows today, you said you believed in the man I could become. What did you mean?" Sophia considered her words carefully. "I meant that you're not as closed off as you think you are. You've experienced terrible loss, so you've protected yourself. But protection becomes a prison if you're not careful. I think there's more warmth in you than you allow yourself to show." Julian's jaw tightened with emotion. "Caroline used to say something similar." She said, "I led with my head because I was afraid of my heart." Was she right? Yes, the admission seemed to cost him. After she died, feeling anything at all was unbearable. So I stopped. I became efficient, strategic, controlled. It was easier that way, but not better, Sophia said softly. "No, not better." He looked at her with startling honesty. "You make me want to try again, to feel again. That terrifies me." Sophia reached out and took his hand. The gesture was simple, but the contact sent electricity through both of them. "We don't have to rush anything," she said. "We can take this one day at a time. Let whatever happens between us unfold naturally." Julian squeezed her hand gently. "Thank you for taking this chance on me." On us? After he left, Sophia lay in bed with her hand on her growing belly, feeling the first flutter of hope that maybe, just maybe, this unconventional beginning could lead to something extraordinary. The next 3 months transformed their lives in ways neither expected. Sophia's pregnancy became visible, her body changing to accommodate the new life growing within. Julian proved to be unexpectedly attentive, attending every doctor's appointment, reading pregnancy books with the same intensity he brought to business negotiations, and preparing the nursery with meticulous care. But the real changes were subtler, more profound. They began having breakfast together each morning, sharing comfortable silences and easy conversation. Julian showed Sophia his work, explaining the complex political and business decisions he navigated. Sophia introduced him to Grace, and the elderly woman's wisdom seemed to touch something in Julian that had been dormant for years. "She reminds me of my grandmother," Julian told Sophia one evening after visiting the hospice. "The same way of seeing through pretense to the truth underneath." "Grace likes you," Sophia said. "She told me you have kind eyes, even when you're trying to be intimidating. I've never tried to intimidate you, not intentionally perhaps, but you do have a way of commanding a room." They were in the living room, Sophia reading while Julian worked on his laptop. These quiet domestic moments had become their favorite part of each day, a peaceful routine that felt remarkably like a real marriage. The peace shattered on a Wednesday afternoon when Natasha Whitmore appeared. At their door, Sophia answered the bell to find a striking woman with sharp features and sharper eyes standing on the threshold. She was elegantly dressed in a designer suit, her posture radiating confidence and barely contained anger. "You must be Sophia," Natasha said without preamble. "We need to talk." Julian appeared behind Sophia, his face carefully neutral. "Natasha, this isn't a good time. I don't care. I've been patient for 3 months, Julian. I've kept quiet while you played house with your accidental bride. But enough is enough. We need to discuss the future, all 3 of us." Sophia stepped back, allowing Natasha inside. Better to face this confrontation than to let it fester. They gathered in the living room, tension crackling in the air. Natasha's eyes swept over Sophia's visible pregnancy with something like pain. "I terminated my pregnancy last month," Natasha said bluntly. "The child wasn't Julian's, wasn't the result of the partnership our families had planned. There was no point in continuing." Sophia felt a pang of sympathy, despite Natasha's hostility. "I'm sorry. That must have been a difficult decision. Don't patronize me with your small-town kindness." Natasha's voice was sharp. "You have no idea what you've destroyed. Julian and I had an arrangement that would have benefited both our families, our businesses, our futures. And now he's tied to you, a nobody nurse with no connections, no influence, nothing to offer." "That's enough, Natasha." Julian's voice cut through the room like a blade. "Sophia is my wife. You will treat her with respect in our home, your wife." Natasha laughed bitterly. "Do you love her, Julian? Or is this just another arrangement like ours would have been?" The question hung in the air, demanding an answer. Sophia held her breath, suddenly desperate to hear Julian's response. "My feelings for Sophia are none of your concern," Julian said carefully. "So that's a no." Natasha turned her sharp gaze on Sophia. "You should know what you're getting into. Julian Ashford doesn't love. He strategizes, he arranges, he controls. But he doesn't open his heart. His first wife was the only woman who ever reached him, and when she died, that door closed permanently." "You don't know anything about us?" Sophia said quietly, but with steel in her voice. "Whatever Julian and I have, it's ours. It's real. And it's none of your business. Real." Natasha's smile was cruel. "Give it time. When the novelty wears off, when the baby is born and reality sets in, you'll see. You'll be nothing but a glorified nanny in a beautiful cage. Leave." Julian stood, his presence suddenly overwhelming. "Now." Natasha gathered her designer purse with controlled grace. "I came here to tell you that my father is withdrawing his support for your political ambitions. The partnership between our families is over. I hope she was worth the cost, Julian." After Natasha left, silence filled the house like smoke. Sophia stood by the window, arms wrapped around herself, staring out at nothing. "I'm sorry you had to hear that," Julian said finally. "Was she right?" Sophia turned to face him. "About you?" "About us." "Which part?" "All of it. Are we just an arrangement? Am I just a convenient solution to an inconvenient problem?" Julian crossed the room to her, and Sophia saw something in his eyes she hadn't seen before. Fear. "When I proposed this marriage, that's exactly what it was," he admitted. "A practical solution to an impossible situation. I didn't expect to feel anything beyond obligation and responsibility. And now you've turned my carefully ordered life upside down. You've made this house feel like a home. You've made me laugh again. You've reminded me what it feels like to look forward to coming home at the end of the day." He paused, struggling with words. "You've made me feel again, Sophia. And that terrifies me more than any business negotiation or political battle ever could." Sophia's heart raced. "Julian, what are you saying?" "I'm saying that somewhere along the way, this stopped being an arrangement. At least for me." He took her hands in his. "I don't know if what I feel is love. I'm not sure I remember what love feels like. But I know that I think about you constantly. That your smile makes something in my chest feel lighter. That the thought of you being unhappy causes me actual physical pain." The tears pricked Sophia's eyes. "I've been falling in love with you," she whispered. "I've been fighting it, telling myself it was just proximity, just gratitude. But the truth is, I love you, Julian. Not the powerful mogul or the political advisor, but you. The man who reads pregnancy books like they're mission briefings. The man who sits with Grace and listens to her stories. The man who's terrified of feeling but feels so deeply anyway. Julian pulled her close, his arms wrapping around her with desperate tenderness. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to love without fear of losing everything again. You do it one day at a time, Sophia said into his chest. You do it by choosing me and letting me choose you every single day. He pulled back to look at her face, his blue eyes intense. I choose you, Sophia, today and every day. I choose you. When he kissed her this time, it wasn't perfunctory or careful. It was deep and passionate, full of all the feelings they'd been holding back for months. Sophia felt herself melting into him. Both breathing hard, foreheads pressed together. I love you, Julian said. The words sounding rusty but genuine. I love you, and it terrifies me. But I'm done pretending otherwise. The following weeks were a revelation. Julian allowed himself to be vulnerable in ways Sophia had never imagined. He told her stories about Caroline, about his childhood, about his fears and insecurities. In return, Sophia shared her own history, her complicated relationship with her father, her dreams of creating a real family. They made love for the first time on a rainy Sunday afternoon, tentative at first, then with growing passion. Afterward, lying in Julian's arms, Sophia felt a completeness she'd never experienced before. I didn't know it could be like this, Julian murmured, stroking her hair. With Caroline, it was passionate but turbulent. We fought as hard as we loved. But with you, it's different. Peaceful. Right? Every relationship is different, Sophia said. That doesn't diminish what you had with her. It just means what we have is ours, unique to us. Grace passed away peacefully one October evening with Sophia and Julian both at her bedside. The elderly woman smiled at them as her breathing grew shallow. You found it, Grace whispered to Sophia. The real thing? I can go now, knowing you're truly loved. Thank you, Sophia said through tears. For everything. Grace's eyes moved to Julian. Protect her heart. It's the most valuable thing you'll ever possess. I will, Julian promised. With everything I have, Grace closed her eyes and slipped away quietly, a slight smile on her face. Sophia wept in Julian's arms while he held her close, his own tears falling into her hair. She gave me so much, Sophia said. Hope, wisdom, courage. She gave us both a gift, Julian said. She helped me understand that loving again wasn't betraying Caroline's memory. It was honoring it by choosing to live fully as Caroline would have wanted. Their daughter was born on a snowy December night, 6 weeks before her due date. Complications arose during delivery, and for terrifying hours Julian sat in the waiting room, reliving his worst nightmare. But this time, the story had a different ending. Sophia emerged, exhausted but alive, with a tiny, perfect baby girl in her arms. Meet our daughter, Sophia said softly. Julian approached slowly, as if afraid his touch might shatter the moment. When he held his daughter for the first time, his face transformed. All his careful control evaporated, replaced by pure, unguarded love. She's perfect, he whispered. Absolutely perfect. What should we name her? Sophia asked. Julian looked at his wife and daughter, his heart so full it felt like it might burst. Grace, he said. If you agree, Grace Caroline. Sophia smiled through happy tears. It's perfect. 6 months later, they held a renewal of vows ceremony, this time surrounded by friends and family. No longer a practical arrangement, but a celebration of genuine love. As Julian spoke his vows, looking into Sophia's eyes while baby Grace cooed in her grandmother's arms, his voice was strong and clear. But Sophia, when we married the first time, I promised you security and protection. I promised partnership and respect. Today, I promise you more. I promise you my heart, completely and without reservation. I promise to love you not just for who you are, but for who we become together. I promise to choose joy over fear, to choose vulnerability over control, to choose us, always us. Sophia's vows were equally heartfelt. Julian, you taught me that love doesn't always arrive perfectly wrapped. Sometimes it comes disguised as mistakes and accidents and impossible situations. But those messy beginnings can lead to the most beautiful destinations. You are my partner, my love, my home, and I choose you every single day for the rest of my life. When they kissed this time, it was before people who loved them, in a home filled with warmth and laughter, with their daughter as witness to the miracle of second chances. That evening, as they tucked Grace into her crib and prepared for bed, Julian pulled Sophia close. You ever think about how differently this could have turned out? He asked, if you'd said no. If I'd chosen control over courage, sometimes, Sophia admitted. But I'm grateful for every choice that led us here. Even the mistake that started it all. The most beautiful mistake of my life, Julian murmured. Kissing her softly, they stood together in the nursery doorway, watching their daughter sleep. Their intertwined hands a symbol of everything they'd built together. What began as an impossible situation had become an extraordinary love story. Proof that sometimes the best things in life are the ones we never planned for at all. Outside, snow fell softly over the city, covering everything in pristine white. Inside, a family born from chaos and choice, from accident and intention, from fear and courage, settled into their home, their love a warm light against the winter darkness. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this story. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to click like. Share this story with your friends and family, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on more meaningful stories.